Have you ever been in the middle of a conversation in English and everything is going well and then suddenly your brain just stops? You know the word, you have used it before, but right now, in this moment, it is completely gone and you just stand there, silent, hoping the other person does not notice.
That feeling is one of the most uncomfortable things for English learners. We hear about it all the time. You are speaking, you're doing great, and then one missing word takes everything down. Your confidence drops, you feel embarrassed, and sometimes you stop speaking altogether.
Today on English Chats Daily, we are going to talk about exactly that. How to keep talking when you forget a word. And trust me, by the end of this episode, you'll see this problem in a completely different way. So if you're new here and you want real, practical English help like this every week, go ahead and subscribe right now. We would love to have you in our community.
So before we get into the techniques, I want to ask you something. Have you ever watched a really confident speaker, someone who seems totally smooth and natural in English, and thought, wow, they never forget words? I used to think that too. But here's the truth, Eva. What do you think actually happens when confident speakers forget a word?
This is such a good question, George, and the answer might surprise people. Confident speakers forget words all the time. Native speakers forget words. Even professionals who speak publicly for a living forget words mid-sentence. The difference is not that they know more vocabulary. The difference is that they have strategies. They know how to keep going.
Exactly, and that's the core idea of today's episode. Fluency is not about having every single word ready in your brain. Fluency is about knowing what to do when a word is missing. Wait, think about this for a second. What if forgetting words is not actually your problem? What if it's just a skill you haven't trained yet?
That reframe alone can change how you feel about speaking. Because right now, many learners think, I'm not ready to speak because I don't know enough words. But that thinking keeps you silent, and silence doesn't help you improve. Speaking, even imperfect speaking, is what builds real confidence over time.
So let's start with technique number 1, and this one is probably the most natural thing a human being can do. When you forget a word, just describe it. Just describe what the thing is, what it does, or what it looks like. You don't need the exact word. You can talk around it.
Right, so for example, let's say you forget the word corkscrew. You could say, I forgot the word, but it's the small tool you use to open a wine bottle, the one that has a spiral shape and you twist it. Do you know what I mean? And the other person immediately understands you. The conversation keeps going. Nothing is broken.
And actually, Eva, native speakers do this too. Someone will say, oh, what's that thing called? You know, the little machine in the kitchen, the one that makes the bread warm again. And everyone knows they mean a toaster. Describing is not a sign of weakness. It's a natural part of communication.
Totally. And this technique works even better when you practice it. Try describing 5 common objects in English without using their names. Just describe what they do. You'll get better at it very quickly, and you'll feel so much more confident because you realize you can always explain your way around a missing word.
Okay, technique number 2. Use a simpler word. This is something I think a lot of learners don't give themselves permission to do. They think they need to use the exact right word, the sophisticated one, the advanced one. But actually, a simpler word that gets the message across is always better than silence.
Yes. If you forget the word frustrated, you can just say not happy or a little angry. If you forget exhausted, say very tired. If you forget magnificent, say really beautiful. Simple words still carry the meaning, and communication is about meaning, not about impressing people with your vocabulary.
And here is a mindset shift I want you to carry with you. The goal of a conversation is connection, not performance. You are not being tested when you talk to someone. You are just trying to share ideas and understand each other. Simpler words absolutely work for that goal.
Okay, let's talk about technique number 3, and this one is incredibly useful in real conversations. Filler bridges. These are short phrases you can use to buy yourself a little time and show the other person that you are still thinking, still engaged, still part of the conversation.
So, what are some examples of filler bridges, Eva? Let's give our listeners some real ones they can start using today.
Great! So here are some that really work. You can say, let me explain it another way. Or, what I mean is, and then you continue. Or, how can I say this? And you pause for just a moment and then keep going. These phrases do something really powerful. They signal to the other person that you are thinking carefully, and thinking carefully actually sounds smart, not uncertain.
That is such a key point because when learners freeze and go silent, it can feel awkward for both people in the conversation. But when you say something like, how can I say this? Or let me think about that for a second, you're still communicating. You're telling the other person, I'm here, I'm listening. I'm just choosing my words carefully.
Exactly. And filler bridges also give your brain a few extra seconds to find the word or decide which strategy to use. So they're not just polite phrases, they're actually little tools that help your thinking process keep moving forward.
All right, technique number 4. Use an example instead of the vocabulary word. This is similar to describing, but a little different. Instead of describing what a word means, you give a situation, a little story, a moment that shows what you're talking about.
So, for example, let's say you forget the word nervous. Instead of trying to find that word, you say, you know that feeling you get before you do something big, like before a job interview or before you speak in front of people, your heart beats fast and your hands shake a little? That feeling. And the other person immediately understands. You communicated the idea perfectly without the word.
And this is actually a really rich way to communicate. Stories and examples are often more interesting than single words. So, in a way, forgetting a word sometimes pushes you to explain yourself in a more human, more connected way. That's a beautiful thing when you think about it.
It really is. And listeners, try this today. Think of an emotion or a situation you want to describe. Now, instead of searching for the perfect word, tell a tiny story about it. Describe a moment when you felt that thing. You'll find that your English becomes more natural and more interesting automatically.
All right, so we've covered 4 techniques now. Let me do a quick recap here because we're at the halfway point and I want to make sure everything is staying clear. Technique 1, describe the word. Technique 2, use a simpler word. Technique 3, use filler bridges. Technique 4, use examples and little stories. You feeling good about these so far, Eva?
Feeling great. And we have one more technique to go, and honestly, this might be the most powerful one of all. Technique number 5. Pause calmly instead of freezing. There's a big difference between a panic freeze and a thinking pause, and learning that difference can completely change how you feel in conversations.
Can you explain that difference a little more? Because I think a lot of learners feel like any pause is a bad pause, like silence automatically means they're failing.
Yes, that is such a common feeling. A panic freeze happens when you forget a word and your body responds with fear. Your face changes, you stop breathing normally, you look down or away, and the other person can feel your discomfort. That energy makes the conversation awkward. But a thinking pause is completely different.
So a thinking pause is intentional. You look calm, maybe you make a small sound like or you nod slightly and then you continue. You are still present, you are just choosing what to say next. And when you are calm, the other person is calm too. The conversation stays comfortable.
Right, and here's a little practice tip for this. Before your next English conversation, take 3 slow breaths and remind yourself, a pause is okay. A pause is not failure. A pause is just thinking. If you build that belief before the conversation starts, you'll be so much less likely to freeze in the middle of it.
Okay, now let's make this real with a quick role play. Eva, I want you to pretend you forget a word. Show our listeners what the bad example looks like first, the kind of thing most learners do.
Okay, sure. So imagine we are talking and you ask me about my weekend and I say, I went to I cannot remember the word. It is a place where Sorry, I forgot. Never mind. Let me change the subject.
And listeners, that is the pattern that hurts your confidence. You start strong, you hit a missing word, and then you abandon the whole sentence and even the whole topic. That is the freeze response. Now, Ava, let's show the better version. Same scenario, different strategy.
Okay, so you ask about my weekend, and I say, I went to this really nice place. How can I say this? It is like a big garden or a park, but it also has animals. The place where you go to see lions and elephants and different animals from around the world. We had so much fun there. And then I would say, oh yes, the zoo, that is the word.
And did you notice how much better that felt? Ava kept the conversation moving, used a description, used a filler bridge, and the word actually came back on its own once the pressure was off. That happens a lot. When you stop panicking and just keep speaking, your brain relaxes and often finds the word naturally.
That is such a good observation, George, and it shows again that the strategy is not about being perfect. It's about staying in the conversation. The word might come back, or the description you gave might be enough. Either way, you kept going, and that's the win.
Let's now give our listeners their 5 ready-to-use phrases. These are phrases you can actually memorize and pull out anytime you forget a word in English. 5 practical phrases that will save you in real conversations.
Yes, so write these down, save this episode, use these anytime. Phrase number 1, I forgot the word, but it means. Phrase number 2, let me describe it. Phrase number 3, what I'm trying to say is. Phrase number 4, how can I explain this? And phrase number 5, another way to say it is.
These 5 phrases are your emergency kit for English conversations. They're simple enough that you can remember them even when you're nervous, and they signal to the other person that you're a thoughtful communicator who cares about being understood. That's actually a very positive impression to make.
And listeners, I want to give you a 5-minute daily speaking drill that you can do to practice all of this. It's simple, it takes only 5 minutes, and if you do it consistently, you'll notice a difference very quickly. Are you ready?
Let's hear it.
Okay. Every day, pick one random object near you. It could be your phone, your cup, a book, a lamp, anything. Now, set a timer for 2 minutes and talk about that object in English without ever saying its name. Describe it, explain what it does, tell a story about using it, give examples. Just keep talking for 2 minutes.
And then for the last 3 minutes, talk about your day. Something that happened, something you felt, something you want to do tomorrow. And when you hit a word you don't know, don't stop. Use one of the 5 techniques. Keep going. Do this every single day and your brain will start building those survival pathways automatically.
The reason this drill works is because you're practicing under a small amount of pressure, but in a safe environment. You're alone, there's no judgment, and you can experiment freely. But your brain still gets the experience of finding a way forward when a word is missing. And that experience transfers directly to real conversations.
I want to add one more thing before we move into our final section. Something that I think is really important for our listeners to hear. A lot of you are hard on yourselves when you make mistakes in English. You feel embarrassed. You replay the conversation afterward and think about all the things you should have said differently.
And we really want to address that because that self-criticism is one of the biggest barriers to speaking confidence. When you forget a word in a conversation, most of the time the other person does not judge you the way you judge yourself. They are usually just waiting to understand what you want to say. They want the conversation to work too.
And honestly, speaking another language is incredible. The fact that you are even in that conversation, communicating in English, which is not your first language, that is already something to be proud of. Do not let one missing word take away from that achievement.
Fluency is not a destination you arrive at someday when your vocabulary is big enough. Fluency is a practice. It is something you do in real time, every day, with the words and skills you have right now. And every time you keep speaking instead of freezing, you're building that fluency.
Okay, let's bring it all together. A quick final recap of our 5 speaking survival techniques. Number 1, describe the word. Use your own words to explain what the missing word means or does. Number 2, use a simpler word. Choose an easier option that still carries the same meaning. Number 3, use filler bridges. Phrases like, what I mean is, or let me explain it another way, to keep the conversation flowing.
Number 4, use examples instead of vocabulary. Tell a little story or describe a situation that shows what you mean without needing the exact word. And number 5, pause calmly instead of freezing. Breathe, stay present, and let the thinking pause work for you instead of against you.
And your 5 ready-to-use phrases. I forgot the word, but it means, let me describe it. What I'm trying to say is, how can I explain this? And another way to say it is,
These are not just phrases, these are proof that you have a system. And having a system means you don't have to be afraid anymore. When you have 5 different ways to keep talking, one missing word cannot stop you.
and here's what I really want you to take away from today. We want you to see yourself differently after this episode. You're not someone who freezes when you forget a word. You are someone who has strategies. You are someone who keeps speaking. That's a completely different identity, and it's available to you right now.
Not someday when your English is perfect, right now, with the English you have today. Because here's the truth, your English today is enough to have real conversations, to connect with real people, and to keep improving every single time you practice.
And practicing doesn't have to mean formal study or textbooks. It means doing that 5-minute daily drill. It means using one of those 5 phrases the next time you forget a word. It means staying in the conversation even when it feels uncomfortable. That's how real fluency is built.
For extra practice materials, example scripts, and more speaking tips, check the pinned comment below this video. We've put together some really helpful resources specifically for this topic and for learners who want to build their speaking confidence step by step.
And if today's episode helped you, if it gave you even one new idea or one new phrase you want to try, please share it with a friend who's also learning English. Sometimes the most helpful thing is knowing that someone else is on the same journey, facing the same challenges, and finding ways through.
And if you're not subscribed yet, please do hit that subscribe button right now. We release new episodes every week on practical English skills, just like this one. Real conversations, real techniques, real encouragement for real learners. We'd love to see you here every week.
Thank you so much for spending this time with us today on English Chats Daily. Remember, you're not someone who freezes anymore. You are someone who keeps speaking, and that makes all the difference. We'll see you in the next episode.
Take care, keep practicing, and we're cheering for you every single step of the way.